Every day we make hundreds of choices. What to wear, what to eat, whether or not to hit the snooze button just one more time, or maybe like 5 more times. Others, they're moral decisions that can shape who we are. Here's the thing, you are your choices. Every decision from what you had for breakfast to how you spend your Saturday night shapes your life. Take waking up early and going to the gym before work, for example. It's important to me, but let's be honest, there are days when it doesn't happen and things don't always go as planned. But that doesn't stop me from making a better decision the next day. It's important to realize that an all or nothing attitude won't get you very far. If you let shame rule you, soon one day off will turn into 2, and suddenly 2 days could become 2 years. Here's the key. Don't beat yourself up for hitting roadblocks on the path towards your goal, but don't let it stop you from getting back up on your horse either. Each day is a brand new opportunity to make a better choice. And one day, maybe a couple of years from now, these seemingly insignificant choices will sneak up on you, and you will ever so naturally slip into becoming the person you've always wanted to be. Because guess what? If you can imagine a different life for yourself, if you can even desire it, then maybe this version of you already exists. Maybe it's less of a yearning and more of an inner knowing of what you could be. It's like there's this seed of a version of your life living inside of you that's just waiting to be watered and to grow with each good decision that you make. It sounds simple, but if you just muster up the will to show up for yourself on the majority of days, you will eventually find yourself walking down a path of greatness. So let yourself believe that you are great, that this life you imagine for yourself isn't so far away, and that it does exist. It's here, waiting to see if you'll make the choice to take your first steps down the right path. And it's not just the surface level stuff, but the bigger choices. How you treat others, whether you stand up for what's right, whether you take responsibility, and whether or not you are truly following through with your own goals. Those choices shape the core of who you are. Now, a lot of us don't even realize we're making half of these choices, myself included. That's why it's so important for us to be aware of them. Sometimes the smallest moral choices end up making the biggest difference. The choices you make when no one is looking, they reveal your true character. And if you don't believe me, let me show you how powerful your choices can be. See, my father-in-law has this saying, show me a miserable life and I'll show you a series of bad choices. I know, right? It's a bit intense, but the man has a point. It's easy to think, one more episode won't hurt, and next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and you're watching YouTube tutorials on how to survive a zombie apocalypse. I mean, we've all been there, right? Okay, maybe not, but you get the point. Some choices can feel paralyzing in the moment, like whether or not to speak up when something feels wrong. But those choices, the ones we justify with, I'll just deal with it later, or it's not that big of a deal, can snowball into something bigger. There have been times where I've stayed silent when I should have spoken up, whether it was letting a friend take the blame for something or not standing up for someone being mistreated. I didn't want the conflict, but that choice to do nothing, it sticks with you. It shapes you. Now here's something important. This saying my father-in-law uses, it's obviously not referencing situations where people didn't have control over their circumstances. Some things are out of our hands. But when you do have control, our choices make all the difference. He gave me this analogy. Imagine that your choices are on a scale. The small decisions, they're like grains of sand. The big decisions, they're like bricks. Sure, the bricks weigh more at first, but over time, both the sand and the bricks can add up to weigh the same. And it's not just about individual moments. The people you surround yourself with also affect your moral compass and other decisions that you make. Ever notice how you start picking up the same bad habits from your friends? Like that one guy who always convinces you to stay out late when you know you have a big day tomorrow? Yeah, him. I've had friends who, how do I put this? Weren't exactly pushing me forward. Fun? Yeah, but encouraging me to make good choices and be a better person? Not so much. I had to ask myself, am I staying true to who I am and what I want to be, or am I just compromising just because it's easier to fit in? It's easier to stay silent, to take the path of least resistance. But when we do that, we can end up compromising our morals and values. And over time, those choices become who you are. Standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, that's the choice that builds real character. One day I called my father-in-law because I wanted his perspective on this saying of his. I wanted to truly understand what it is he means when he says this. He told me that he believes that there are 3 important choices you can make every day for a happier life. They're his happiness code. Everything else, it's just extra. But these 3 things are key. First, never hate anybody. Instead, pray for them. Hatred eats away at your own happiness. Second, never be jealous. His father was a baker and lived a very modest life, and he would admire other people's success. He never wished for anyone else to have less. He used their success as inspiration. And lastly, wake up every day with the intention of doing the right thing. You won't always get it right because we all make mistakes, but having that intention is what counts. Like I said earlier, it's not just about the choices you make, but also the people you surround yourself with. I had a friend, let's call her Sarah, who always seemed to get caught up in drama. She'd constantly be stressed out, not because of her own life, but because she was always dealing with other people's problems. Her friends were, how do I say, professional chaos makers. These friends would stay out late, get into arguments, and make poor decisions, but instead of Sarah focusing on her own life, she'd always get pulled into their mess. And you know what? She started to make the same bad choices that they were making. It's like the old saying, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're surrounding yourself with people who are constantly bringing chaos, guess what? You're probably going to make some chaotic decisions too. And before you know it, you're so off course you don't even remember what your original goals were. Red flag alert, if your group of friends are keeping you stuck in the same patterns, it might be time to rethink who you're hanging out with. I mean, sure, they're fun to be around, but are they helping you make the right choices, or are they just keeping you in your comfort zone? So how do we start making better choices? Start by surrounding yourself with people who push you to be better, not just comfortable. People who challenge you to do what's right even when it's hard. Because the company you keep either lifts you up or pulls you down. Your future isn't determined by some huge defining moment. It's shaped by the small, everyday moral choices you make. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. You're not powerless. You have control. The question is, what choices are you going to start making today? So yeah, my father-in-law wasn't wrong. Show me a miserable life and I'll show you a series of bad choices. But here's the flip side. Show me someone who's thriving, who's living a life they love, and I'll show you someone who's made a series of good choices. Someone who's surrounded themselves with the right people and made tough moral choices to get there. Remember, you are your choices. And sometimes the hardest choice is the best one. So the next time you face a decision, whether it's speaking up for someone, admitting to a mistake, or simply being kind, ask yourself, is this helping me become the person I want to be? And are the people around you helping you get there, or are they keeping you stuck? If it's the latter, well, you know what to do.